welcome to the RPO show. This RPO football show will be on YouTube and also Spotify. Tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to go over the fantasy IDP football universe as well as Dynasty rankings, and we're also going to talk to Aiden Shahamid, who runs the IDP Center. What's going on, Aiden? How you doing?
Not much. Doing well. Very happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
I'm kind of excited to go through these rankings with you, but I see you brought a little backup this week, right? You brought a friend with you from Germany?
Yep, Brian, our one of our IDP advisors, Nikki, over here.
And that's another thing too. If you guys ever get a chance, check out the IDP Center. We have some good data over there. We got trade calculators. You got over 350 writers now, managers helping you excite, right?
Yeah, we have over 350 managers on our Discord server that kind of contribute to that sense of community. We all chat IDP, help each other with trade thoughts, second opinions and advice on draft picks, everything from startup drafts to in-season trades and waiver wire pickups. So we're really thrilled with that.
I'm kind of thrilled that you brought in one of your advisors, Mr. Nikki here. Nikki, where are you from?
I'm from Germany. Thanks for having me this week, Stephen.
They do football over in Germany?
Yeah, we love football. Maybe it's the second biggest market after America right now. Like Great Britain is a big market, but the Germans are crazy obsessing about football. So we're overtaking those guys. It's Europe's biggest market.
I hear you're in some interesting leagues as well.
Yeah. Aiden brought me to a 32-team Dynasty namesake league, which is like the craziest league I'm in right now. Like usually very, very big leagues, everything from like 16 to like 64. You told us you're in a 64-team league, are kind of crazy. And we're in a 32-team league where every owner represents a real NFL franchise. So you basically had a startup draft where you picked your franchise to begin with.
Wow.
Under the circumstances that you were able to pick 3 offensive players of those teams or of your representative franchise and 3 defense players, which made it kind of interesting because like you have to keep into mind like what players am I going to choose? What is my approach? Like especially the 49ers, who were one of the earliest picks. Like, am I taking like George Kittle, who is an old player but helps me to be in a win now mode, or am I picking like younger players and stuff? And it's a really, really crazy league because like you have a big league, you have like small waivers and stuff, you have IDP in it too. And the term namesake itself, it grants you every year to take one player your NFL franchise has picked in the real NFL draft to pick for your fantasy team before all players go into the rookie draft pool. So it's a nice thing to have for trading. Like you can trade those picks and it's very actively done. And it's like a very nice gamble.
Yeah, I was kidding earlier. A lot of my IDP leagues are overseas. In fact, I just started one. We got 6 Brazilian guys versus 6 Americans. So you'll see me tweeting about that. I don't know if you're on Twitter. We have overseas leagues all the time. Germany's big in IDP. What got you into IDP?
Well, basically, it was like I was starting in redraft leagues like most guys do. And I was kind of satisfied, but it's not the whole thing. Like Dynasty leagues offer more range, more knowledge, more time to put into the whole thing. And then I was invited to my first Dynasty league, including IDPs. And I always wanted to get a little bit more into the defense players in the NFL as well. And so I thought like, that's the best circumstance I can get into that because like it forces me to get to know the defense players, the defensive schemes, the formations, how IDP is working. And like IDP itself is like 3 times as big as only offense NFL Dynasty leagues. So that was made me intrigued and there was no back then.
And what's funny, it's like chess versus regular checkers because you got to figure out the scoring and the context. And Aiden, I know you're going to show us your scoring concept that you guys came up with, for the IDP Center. But Nikki, with IDP, are you familiar with the RPO football?
Of course, I'm very, very familiar with RPO football. We were talking earlier. Shoutouts to Leo, to Mase IDP. He was the one that advised me very early on, and especially in this spoken on 32-team league, because the thing with IDP and the thing that Aiden will dig into a little bit deeper later is like you have so many scoring variations. You have no really standing rules like we have with PPR, half PPR, and standard. Like it's very clear what you're doing there and what is really important there. But especially in defense leagues, like wow, scoring can really impact your draft and your whole strategy itself. So that's why I was digging into it.
Why people don't. They don't look at their scoring when they first start drafting. I mean, that's the key to it all.
They just stick to the ADP, and it's like the most stupid thing you can do, especially if you're on sleeper and you have really individualized scoring settings.
So I don't want to tell on myself. I don't want to tell my age here, but when we first started doing it back on Yahoo, when Yahoo kicked it off, we had to do a thing called value-based drafting, which was, okay, this is my tier. When do I jump when I know? And Leo's around my age. Leo's going to get such a kick that you actually, all the way out in Germany, he has a reach. And all the way out there, you've been looking at his stuff. And we were talking offline. I got a kick out of it. You pulled my rankings up as well. That helped you win last year. Yeah, that makes you feel good because that's why we're out here. There's all different kinds of people I've had on the show, Nikki. I've had football players before. I had a professional football player. I had analysts. I've had offensive guys. I actually had an inventor before. And Aiden, you invented something wild, did you not? And then that helped you with the creation of your IDP Center. What says you? Let me pull that up and let's talk about you for a little bit here.
Okay, no problem. So yes, we have our Discord server, which is the IDP Center. We got over 350 managers on there now, approaching 400. And from that server, we had enough engagement, community engagement to launch this full website, which you do see here. And the reason why we created this website is, to Nikki's earlier point, there's really not a lot of resources out there for IDP players. We have our Discord community where you could come and chat with us. We have over 350 members there, IDP advisors that'll give you second opinions on any trades you might have or give you advice on startup picks. But here on our website, we really have a bevy of tools, even though we just launched it about a month and a half ago. You see our community there. We also have our IDP trade charts and offensive trade charts. We have articles that come out, including some from you, Steve. We have IDP guides. So we really have a full bevy of tools here. And the main focus is to be able to provide IDP tools for every league, particularly to that point about scoring. Just because a player is ranked number 1 in one league in terms of points per game, he might be ranked 50th in a different league because they use a very different scoring system, which is almost a detriment to IDP currently. So as you'll see on our IDP Dynasty trade value chart, we kind of categorize leagues into 3 different main types. We have tackle heavy scoring, balanced scoring, and impact heavy scoring. So that's impact heavy leagues tend to value sacks a lot more.
Big plays, especially big plays, also like for cornerbacks, DBs and stuff.
Yep, exactly. Their interceptions and passive defense, etc., are a lot higher weighted. Whereas tackle heavy leagues, obviously the tackles are worth a lot more. So those are the 3 main kind of categories of leagues. And then on our IDP Dynasty trade value chart, there's, for each position, we break it down between those 3 main types, as well as shallow leagues and much deeper leagues, because, for example, Ernest Jones might be a tier 2 starter in very shallow tackle heavy leagues, but in deeper leagues where you're starting 12, 20, a lot more IDP players, he's worth a lot more. So our IDP Dynasty trade value charts kind of value each player in every league format and can be a really comprehensive tool for anyone that uses it.
You got a lot of articles on here, a lot of smart people over here helping you out. What gave you the idea to create this? What inspired you to create this, rather?
Frankly, it was because when I first started with IDP, I was looking through it, and I myself was looking for resources for it. Mm-hmm. Like, yes, there's a bunch of different resources out there with different rankings, but the issue with these rankings, again, is that based on whatever league scoring system you use, it can dramatically alter which player is worth more than the other. So that was kind of like the impetus to begin this, and really just it was something that I myself wanted. So I was kind of thinking to myself, if this is something I need and I really can't find anything else like that out there, I'll create the IDP Center to really try to help lower the barriers of entry into IDP, to help grow awareness and help grow IDP as a platform or a format of fantasy football that is used. So that was kind of like the main goal of it.
Yeah, Leo's going to get such a kick out of this podcast because y'all know him very well, and it's going on the it's called the RPO show. It's on YouTube. It's the growing network. RPO Football is also running promotion right now. What it is all of their rookie rankings, all of their dynasty rookies. Anything else that you wanted to say about the IDP Center?
Yeah, so we got again, we have full IDP trade chart and offense trade chart, and they can both talk to each other in essence. So you can go and see what is your IDP player worth. For example, Ernest Jones here is worth about in a balanced league, we have Ernest Jones worth about 447 value points, and you could kind of see on an offensive trade chart what kind of player is that equal to in your league format. And then you could kind of go back and forth in those to look at our trade value charts. If you're newer to IDP or you have a friend that's new to IDP, we also have IDP Guides, which has a 3-part series kind of introducing you to IDP, the positions, what you should look for in scoring. And again, the number one thing is always, if you're in IDP league, pay attention to what your scoring is, because that can dramatically change how you draft and how you value these players. And almost every week we have new articles under our What's New tab to kind of give you more information in different aspects of fantasy football, from offense to IDP as well.
I like what you said about, pay attention to your league, pay attention to your scoring, but also I like the reason why you created your site. It's because even when I first started, there wasn't a lot of context. There wasn't a lot of, maybe a couple people run an article here and there and say, this player's good or this player's solid. What does that mean? Solid, good. Tell me more. I'm like a fisherman. I want to know the bait. I want to know what hook. I want to know what water source you're using. What are you catching? So I like the logistics. I like the analyzation that you provide over there. So I just wanted to pay you guys a compliment. So you got a lot of drafts going on as well with your site?
Yes. So from our Discord server, you could join via just on our website. You'll see a little pop-up that says join our Discord server here. We host startup leagues. We have a bunch of different leagues that we're looking to get rolling, from just offense dynasty leagues to 12-team IDP leagues using our native scoring, as well as best ball leagues. Pretty much any kind of league you can think of, we're going to get rolling off here in this off season. And in fact, you just pulled up one of our startup draft leagues. That's a 12-team IDP, pretty balanced scoring. And yeah, we got 3 defensive linemen, 3 linebackers, 4 DBs, and then we have full PPR scoring with a quarter point 10 premium super flex. Yeah.
So the other thing I wanted to say is that's how I met you guys. I was on Reddit, and I think you had a Discord, and people always talk about Reddit. And I don't know what it's like overseas, Nikki, but in America, people have a negative perception about Reddit. Like, it's the worst personalities, people that come out. And I joined this Discord, and I was kind of like this, and I think it was you, Nikki, or it might have been Aiden, but y'all approached me and you were very kind. And I seen the community you guys were growing off the Discord. So you're like, you want to help? I'm like, sure, I help. I played in a couple leagues with you, and it's fun to see this thing growing. From your background so Aiden, you have a background as an inventor too, right? This isn't the first thing you've created, right?
Yes, that's correct. I actually have 1 patent received from the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, and a second one that's currently pending review by the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office for different systems. First system has to do with helping prevent death in hot cars, be by that's seniors, pets, or young toddlers and children. So it's a slightly different vein, but a similar concept that I applied to the website, in that for our IDP trade value charts and offense trade value charts, it's based on a proprietary formula that I developed, taking into account different aspects of IDP defensive NFL systems and what position these players slot into, their stats, their scores, and the like.
Speaking of formulas, before we crack open this draft, this was your first ever Dynasty draft off the site, correct?
Yes, that is correct. So we had 12 different members. This is a real draft. We are going to play out. It's not a mock. So we're going to see how these teams play out as we move forward.
So your formula here that you created, passing yards, you got 0.5. Passing touchdowns, you got 4. Receiving yards, 0.1. Receiving touchdown, 6. PPR, 1 point. Passing yards, you get 0.1. rushing yard 6, kickoff, punt return 6, 2-point conversion 2, bonus points for the tight end 0.25, forced fumbles -2, interceptions -2. Here's where it gets fun. Now we got some IDP action here. So sacks 3, block punts 5, interceptions 5, forced fumbles 4, fumble recovered 2, fumble interception returns 0.1, sack yards 0.1, safeties 4. Wow, that's a pretty good number there. Usually see 2 in leagues. You put 4. Passing defense is 3. Tackles for loss 3. Solo tackles 1.5. Assist 0.75. QB hits 1.5. And the reason I say that is, content matters because it's going to determine how you guys draft. But also, when you guys created that formula, what were some of the wrinkles? What were some of the advantages that you've seen? Drafting players. What were the premium positions?
Yeah, so I think I think Nikki can speak to this as well. Is that like in most leagues, obviously your screw flex position is super important. However, in this league, at least in my opinion, I found that depth is really important because we do have 22 starters, like 11 offense and 11 defense. So having that depth is really important.
Mm-hmm.
Nikki, if you have anything to add there?
Yeah, especially that was the main focal point of my draft strategy. People that have taken a look at my strategy, you can see me drafting at 1.9, have seen that I was trading my first 2 picks away, basically in order to get more picks into the top 14 range. I think I ended up with like 16 picks in the top 12 rounds, which is kind of solid because I always like to stack up for the rounds 3 to 7 or 8 because I think there's a huge value drop off after, especially if you're really, really needy for depth. It's another bonus. Like I've seen Aiden doing the same strategy in another league we are in. Like it was one of the first leagues he was hosting on an initial server, just offense, but like he was trading away everything in the startup to move far behind.
That's a good point, Nikki. Yeah. That's a really good point. I would say with most startup dynasty drafts, things that you'll see is either, the guy like, hey, I'll give my first round draft pick away for multiple 3rd and 4ths, or you'll see the other guy, yeah, I'll have 2 first rounders and I'll wait it out. Is that something that you like to try?
Yes, at least for me, I definitely do tend to because people, you'll look at the first round and you see people that have like Mahomes and Hurts, Josh Allen, Justin Jefferson, Stroud. This first round was dominated by offense just because by nature of a 12-team league, the offense is a little bit more of a priority early on. So people see these big names and they're like, oh my gosh, I must have them. And they are willing to give away, in my opinion, more plus value just to have those 2 star players.
It depends on the draft. You got to feel the room out. And Nikki, this is something, maybe I'm just old. I'll go in a chat and I'll be like, hey, where's everybody from? I'm not being social. If this guy says Indianapolis, he's a Colts fan. The guy says Philadelphia, I'm going to hoist my older players. Just a little old school trick, some of those older guys do. But I'm trying to get a feel for the room. When I jump in a room, I'm trying to social my game quick. But that's a great point you guys had. The 2 common strategies I do, it's either I'm going all in, get me top picks, or I'll go back. And I noticed the better teams have those middle picks. Another thing, looking around this draft before we go, most common things you usually see, you'll see quarterbacks go first a lot, or the running back run will happen usually in the second. It's either or. And then the other common thing I usually see too, tight end, they'll either go super early or you just punt them and you wait, longer as you go, So this was a super flex too, right?
Yes. Yeah. I think that's why you'll see those QBs go in so early there. And yeah.
Another thing that adds to that formula is like, especially if you're trading away your first.
Let's go ahead and cut it. Let's go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah. Your first pick was, well, I'll just go the first round. You guys tell me, okay? 1.1 was Josh Allen. 1.2 was Patrick Mahomes. 1.3 was Jalen Hurts. 1.4 was Justin Jefferson. 1.5 was Stroud. 1.6 was Lamar Jackson. 1.7 was Burrow. 1.8 was Lamb. 1.9 was Chase. 1.10 was McCaffrey. 1.11 was Herbert. 1.12 was Ahmad St. Brown. What do you guys see in there? What jumped out to you?
So the first thing that jumps out to me is Christian McCaffrey at that 110 spot. I do think it was a bit early for a running back, even though he does have a very, very high value over replacement. Just in terms of career.
If I was early, I would have went like a Breece Hall type. You know what I mean? If somebody does that, or maybe his dog came in the room and pressed the keyboard by mistake, he took CMC. I don't know. But once you got a team like that and you do that in the first round, you're already committed to a win now. You have to. There's no more dynasty about it. But yeah, that's a little bit rich for me. I was looking at the quarterbacks myself. Is that the order? We're doing right now? The Allen, Mahomes, Hurts? I'm not so sure. When you look at it now, Allen is Diggless, right? He's Diggsless.
Yes.
And then we have a couple other issues in here. So my thoughts were, okay, Mahomes, in a league setting like this, you almost have to. But what did he finish? 7th last year, I believe. I think he did.
Yeah.
And Jalen Hurts. Okay, Jalen Hurts got a new offensive coordinator in Kellen Moore. Is that going to hurt his status or not? I'm not so sure. Josh Allen, I told you, like I said, this may be one of those years for them that they have to figure it out. But I don't know if that's the order still. What says you guys?
I think that feels about right to me. I see a lot of people taking CJ Stroud at the 1-2 or 1-3 sometimes in startup drops. And for me,
so do I.
And for me, that's a bit too rich for him, because you can look at someone that had almost a better statistical year in Jordan Love, who we'll get to in a little bit as we look at the second round. But I just feel like that 1-2, 1-3 spot for Stroud is a bit too rich for him, especially given that he is still a rookie and we're not sure exactly how that second year will progress yet.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to dig in. Like, even at the 1.5 spot, QB4, this is way too early for me. Like, you have no real sample size. Like, you have 1 year sample size, but everything turned into place. Like, Tank Dell was surprisingly a good X receiver, even though he's quite undersized. Nico Collins had a breakout year. The coaching staff all work very well, but he's on a lot of pressure right now. And if you ask me, I don't estimate him to have a year like last year again. Like, you have a staple quarterback like Justin Herbert going 1.11 as QB7. A quarterback has worked without Keenan Allen, without Mike Williams, like with a wide receiver room that was totally garbage. And he's going as the QB7, even though he's kind of young. He has a really good coach right now, and they were elevating the wide receiver room right now. So I'm not sure if CJ Stroud should be QB4 caliber right now.
I think that's definitely where his value is at in general in the community, just because, but I do feel like as a result of that, his hype is a little bit too high. Like, you look at like Keep Trade Cut, KTC.com, and you see Stroud sometimes at the 1 spot over Mahomes, which does feel a little rich, at least for me personally. Like, obviously others may have different opinions on that, but just me personally, I feel like I'd rather have Mahomes and the safety of that rather than Stroud entering his second year.
2 things I should notice for the people on Spotify that can't see the screen and people on YouTube that are like, what the heck? These kickers are here because they're replacement. They're holders for the rookies that are about to come up. And also, this is a snake draft. And Aiden and Nikki, you said something kind of interesting to me. When we go to the second round here, when we hit this turn, you're going to see quarterbacks like Jordan Love, Anthony Richardson, which are steals. They're right there. So, I mean, ideally, you don't, unless you have the top 1.1, 1.3, I get it. You want to go quarterback in place, but you can kind of wait. Especially, I'm the same way as you, Nikki. 1 in the hand is better than 2 in the bush, the old expression is. I'd rather have something stable. I know what Burrows can do. I know what Lamar Jackson can do. I know what Herbert can do, especially if I'm just stapling my franchise. I don't know what these 1-year wonders are going to do. I don't want to invest in it. I don't. I'm sorry. So maybe that's me. I'm not much of a gambler. Question for you guys. anything in this first round that didn't look right to you that probably went in the second round and maybe somebody should have went in the first? Thing that's off?
So
besides Christian McCaffrey, it's not very much that stands out to me.
Mhm.
You were talking about the guy taking Christian McCaffrey being in an instant win now mode, but what was striking me is like the people that can see the draft chart right now is like the guy that took Christian McCaffrey has not a win now team. Like he has some younger players that
I was going to say that. I was
they
going
need
to wait
time
till
to improve.
You look at his team, right?
Yeah, it's like Jackson Smith and Jigba, Kyle Pitts, Will Levis. Like this is not a win now team. So to me, it's like a completely wasted pick there. Like trade back or take Justin Herbert.
Since we're looking ahead, I was going to ask too. When did Nicky actually make a pick here? Look at this. He's just wheeling, dealing. The price is right. He traded it out. He traded out. Look, he gets in here somewhere.
2.9.
There he is. 2.9. So
he had 2.9.
Okay, so he sat out the first couple picks, and we'll go over that strategy in a second. Let's go to second round. 2.1. How do you say it? Bijan Robinson.
Yep.
I always say it wrong, and I say Bajorn sometimes. Like, okay, 2.3. 2.4, Richardson. 2.5, another rookie. We'll talk about them. 2.6, Jordan Love. Speaking of devil. 2.7, the other Brown, AJ Brown. And don't be a dummy like in some of my drafts. I'm clicking for Ahmad, and I've clicked AJ a couple. I had to own it. You make the pick, you got to own it. But I flipped them around a couple times. Whatever, they're still good picks. 2.8, we got a Puka Nacua sighting. 2.9, Nicky takes Wilson, and that's a steal at 2.9. 2.10,
especially if I talk a little bit on that.
Yeah.
If you take the process into consideration, like I traded out of 1.9 to the 2.4, I guess. Or it's 2.4, 2.3, some kind of pick, and then I traded out another one because like they were offering me like 6th round picks, 7th round picks, a 4th round pick, and the 2 first trades granted me like 4 or 5 additional picks in the top 12. So it gave me enough. What do you say in English? Like you got enough stuff to shoot on. Like if guys provide you with like multiple picks, like in the range you want them in a league that is so deep, you take it.
Yeah, and then you know what? 2 good points too, and I'll bring it to Aiden here. When it comes to actual superflex drafts, wide receivers get pushed down the board, so you'll get better wide receivers that probably should go higher. And then the other thing too, look at how your draft went because rookies were involved, right? You have those rookie replacements. And you got Trevor Lawrence. Dak Prescott's coming off a great year. And then you have Gibbs. Gibbs was, in my opinion, he's a top 5 dynasty running back. What's he? Top 4 easy. He's right here. He's drafted 4. What's he doing all the way at the end of his draft? So I think there's a lot of good value here. Aiden, any thoughts with this second round? And do you know what rookies ended up getting taken here?
Yes, definitely. So the first rookie was Caleb Williams off the board. So that is in place of that 2-4 slot. So that 2-4. The 2-3. So Reed Blankenship became Caleb Williams. The 2-5 became Marvin Harrison Jr. No real surprises there. I will say in more recent startups that we're seeing Caleb Williams, that one, the 0-1, push up into the end of the first, maybe even middle of the first round of startups. So that was really interesting to see. I think that was a great value there. It was also interesting to see that Willify had taken Christian McCaffrey at that 110 spot, created almost a mini run on running backs at the beginning of round 2 with Bijan Robinson at 2-1 and Breece Hall at 2-2. That also still feels a little bit early for me, but feels like almost a reactionary pick to McCaffrey going at the 110 and those people not wanting to miss out on running backs, which then made Gibbs at the 212 spot a huge value in my opinion, because frankly, for me, he is my dynasty RB1, RB2 territory.
they were getting taken? Do you see anybody else in the besides just the Gibbs pick that was a value there?
At least for me, I saw the QBs still here as a big value because those
Yeah, me
running
too.
backs got pushed up so high. And
Look at
honestly,
Dak Prescott, for example. He threw 36 touchdown passes. He had career best 69.5% passes. You're getting him in the second round of a deep super flex. That's a deal.
yep, definitely. And even as you look ahead into the top of round 3, there's still some great QBs that are available there.
Yeah,
So
surprisingly.
yep. So I definitely think this league and that's also another thing when you're approaching startup drafts, especially in the first 2-3 rounds, see where players are going, see where the positions are going, and see how your league values QBs. Because you'll see like Nicky ended up waiting quite a while in QBs, and his team turned out quite elite because he was able to attack those other positions, knowing that certain QBs would fall to him, especially in this draft and the rookie draft.
Yeah, I'm looking. Nicky's coming up in the fourth round. He's got some good picks coming. To start the third round on that note, too, you got Kyler Murray right there, 3.1. He's coming off a forgotten year. You know what I mean? Always a top 10 quarterback. So I was sneaking him in like middle thirds, when we first started before Sleeper ADP was off. It looks like they're starting to catch us. And Brock Purdy, 3.2. What was he, a top 12 fantasy play all last year? There was like 8 games in a row the Niners were like putting up 30 points a game. They were calling it 30 for Purdy. He just kept putting points up. People think he's a game manager. People think he doesn't. Well, he's putting up stats, and he's got people around him. Of course, you got Hill here at 3.3, another rookie, 3.4. Nico Collins, 3.5. Olive, 3.6. Jonathan Taylor, 3.7. First tight end comes off the board, 3.8. Laporta. I'll ask you about that in a minute. Rookie, 3.9. Waddle, 3.10. Josh Jacobs, 3.11. And then Tua Tagliavola, 3.12. Anything in this round? Any thoughts, guys?
Well, to me, Sam Laporta is a very, very good player.
Mm-hmm.
He's arguably like the tight end 1 right now. And even though we got a little tight end bonus, it's too early to me, especially in those kind of leagues where it's like really deep, and it does not make a really, really big difference if you got like a top tight end, because you can see the next tight end went in round 5. So you see how the league is valuing tight end. So
for a while, right? The next tight end.
I do think he could have gotten Laporta like later, maybe especially in the next round.
So let me ask you this. Is it to you guys, is Laporta the clear number 1? Because we still have old man Kelsey hanging around. Andrews is around. But, McBride had that great year too. Or do you think Marv Harrison's going to go in there and saturate some of them targets? We got a lot of contenders for that tight end 1. Is it clear-cut Laporta? Because, look, if you want Laporta, you got to go 2 rounds ahead of everybody else.
Yep. And I think somewhat to Nicky's point, for Laporta is my tight end 1 in Dynasty overall, especially an underrated or overlooked move by Detroit is they got rid of Josh Reynolds, who did soak up a surprising amount of targets for Josh Reynolds. So that could open up a couple more passes towards Laporta. So he is my consensus tight end 1. However, at that price, I would far prefer waiting for that next tier of tight ends in round 5 that we'll get to eventually of McBride, Andrews, and Kincaid. Which just seems like a far better value at that position.
So, shocker, guys, I'm the oldest guy on this episode. Shocker. I know you didn't see that because I got the youthfulness. The beard doesn't have any pepper, right? But I'm the oldest guy, right? I'm going to tell you, when I first started playing, there's usually like 1 or 2 tight ends a year, right? And that's it. In the rest, it's a wasteland. And it's been like that. You guys know it's been like that for a decade, right? This right now is probably the biggest boom we've seen at tight end. I mean, count them. Laporta, McBride. I'm going to probably leave somebody off. Andrews, Kelsey, Kincaid, Pitts is still, who else do we got? We got Njoku. Ingram had a top 3 finish last year. And you can go down the line. I can say you could probably go down the line 10 tight ends without having to, figure it out. You know what I mean? So the point being, half your league, a little bit more than half is going to get a tight end 1 type. So you don't have to pull on a tight end unless you really believe in that guy. That's why I was asking. But look at these teams. Everybody seems to have a tight end. And I left off Hawkinson. Hawkinson, again, there's a guy coming off an injury. So, yeah, you can go super deep at tight end. An IDP is the same principle. Defensive tackle used to be rare. Look at defensive tackle now. It's out of control because we had that great draft class with Quentin Williams, Jeffrey Simmons, all those guys count all at once came out. So now everybody, 12-team league, 14-team league, everybody just about has a tight end or a defensive tackle now. You can get away with that, Just food for thought. I was just wondering.
Yep.
Anything else in this third round that you see, guys?
Look at the third round. This draft actually happened right when that Stefon Diggs trade happened. So I think we were at the end of round 3 after the Nico Collins went to 3-5 when the Stefon Diggs trade happened. The guy was like, oh, man, I just took Nico Collins. But I think regardless of that, it was a little bit high for Nico Collins there. Otherwise, the values seem pretty okay. I think, Nick, again, that rookie pick at the 3.9, I think that was the 1.04, which ended up turning into Jaden Daniels. Is a pretty good value because right now you'll see the rookie hype is out of control and those guys are going way, way higher than that in new startup drafts.
Yeah, and then to Nikki's point earlier, this is where you start to see the dip a little bit. I will make a comment here when we look over at the far right. Josh Jacobs, 3.11 Packers. I'm a little skittish.
Yeah.
I know who he is. Everybody's saying, everybody in the community, like, oh, he signed a 4-year deal. No, he didn't. He's got a 1-year deal. They can move on from him. Marshawn Lloyd is totally competent. I can see that situation changing really quick. So redraft, yes. Dynasty, no. Sorry, Lethal Weapon. You got a cool name, got a Vikings logo. I don't like that pick. You know what's crazy? A lot of deeper leagues, I'm stuck with Tua. I can't trade him. I can't trade him for anything elite, and I can't get off him for anything less. I kind of get stuck with him. I don't mind the player, but he's like his own tier, I guess. He had 69.3% passes last year, over 4,000 yards, 29 touchdowns, okay? He's got a good floor. I think he's averaging 8.5 a pass, but and even a rushing ceiling, 4.4. But I think everyone's kind of afraid of, that's a bit misleading, 4.4, because he doesn't really have much mobility, and everybody's kind of afraid he's a concussion away, I guess. I don't know, but I'm not betting on injury based on what does injury prone even mean anyway? Everybody's injury prone if you really think about it.
Exactly.
But 3.12, you have a middle quarterback potential. That's a good steal too. I think looking at your board, mapping this out, you can probably can gobble up quarterbacks because for some reason I haven't seen a superflex this in a while where people are punting at the position.
Yeah, it's definitely a very interesting phenomenon that we had here where QBs were getting pushed down. So wait on QBs. That's again what I was saying earlier is you can kind of see, especially in that first round. Sometimes you see the first round and there are 10 QBs taken or 8 to 10 QBs taken in the first round. Once you see that that's not the case, you can kind of say, okay, maybe I could wait for QBs and in the middle rounds still get some value, especially for win now builds. You can get elite position playmakers and then circle around and, as we'll see later, like get a Matthew Stafford, a Kirk Cousins, a Baker Mayfield, Derek Carr. Like, sure, those aren't flashy names, but they'll still put up numbers in those super flex spots, especially when you have both offense and IDP. Those premier assets of Mahomes, Jackson, Stroud, etc., might not be quite give you such an edge as just having 2 really solid starters later in the draft.
What I'm interested in is these next couple rounds, we're going to see the tiers break off. And not only the tiers going to break off, you're going to have a lot of rookie picks in between there. So what's fascinating about leagues, you can really see who the active owners are. You can really see who's working the board here. My man Nicky here has a couple picks coming up, but you can really see, I don't know, like usually by round 7, just some owners just tap out super quick. And I'm like, why? You put how much money into this? You invested your time. What'd you think? You're just going to have all top picks? But this is from rounds 4 to 7, this is where you make your bread and butter, if not later. So let me read. Cool with that. Just to kind of give hindsight, you guys kind of highlight the players you want to, okay? So 4.1, we had a rookie, as predicted. 4.2, we had, right? 4.3.
So I think the 4.3 we had Devonta
Was
Smith
Ayuk.
there, and then we had
4.6 was Goff. 4.7 was Pittman. 4.8 was DJ Moore. We had 2 kickers back to back as rookies, 4.9, 10. 4.11, Kyron Williams, coming off that big year. 4.12 was Barkley. Coming around to the snake, 5.1 was Zay Flowers. 5.2 was ETN. 5.3 was Higgins. 5.4 was Trey McBride, the second tight end, followed by 5.5, another rookie. 5.6, Mark Andrews. We see the run on tight end starting to go here. 5.7, Bryce Young. 5.8, David A-Chain. 5.9, Kincaid. And then our first IDP player, 5.10, Micah Parsons. I'll ask you guys about that in a sec. And then 5.11 was Metcalf, and then 5.12 was Addison. What do you guys see in these 2 rounds? Anything you want to note? Anything particular?
Well, you could see me having like 5 picks in those 2 rounds, and
Clean it
as
up.
as I mentioned earlier, like I love the range you have in round 4 and 5. Like you're able to get Drake London, who's destined to be a wide receiver 1 this year, maybe. Devonta Smith, always a very, very good staple, as well as Jake Moody, who turned into Rome Odunze, a player I think will have a very, very big breakout in year 2, because like now he has the competition, he has Keenan Allen, he has DJ Moore, but Keenan Allen is an old player. He's turning 32. He can't do it like another 4 years, so he will be a wide receiver 2 in that offense. And I was also able to get Kincaid as the tight end 4, who's a tight end 2 in my
How
book.
you feel about that?
I
was
feel
just going
very,
to
very
ask
good.
you. I'm high on him too. Who's going to be the target leader there?
Yeah, especially after the draft. Like, who are they throwing to? Curtis Samuel? Come on. Like, Kincaid is maybe destined to be the number 1 receiver in this offense. Like, even though they got Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman isn't... I love Keon Coleman, but he's not big as of a separator. You got Khalil Shakir for sure, but no alpha in this offense. And, like, Kincaid is destined to have, like, a monster season, if you ask me. Not just the touchdowns, but also the yards. So,
right.
I love the value, totally.
I was going to ask you and Aiden this, actually. Is this the bad order you see tight end? Because Laporta, I have to go a couple 2 rounds too high. McBride, I have to buy into last year. With Harv there, he's going to be a little bit. So I wouldn't mind McBride after 3 or 4. Problem is, I got to buy McBride at 2 usually. Kelsey's out the door in a dynasty. That's risky. Andrews gets hurt a lot. I think out of all those guys, Kincaid's the safest one for me right there. That's a good investment. Yep. And you're getting him in the 5th as opposed to the 3rd.
Yep, that's a no-brainer. To your point, is that he might have the safest floor of that group, and he might also have the highest ceiling, because if you look at Laporta at a 3.8, he's always going to have Amon-Ra St. Brown there to compete with. Kincaid could be that alpha, to yours and Nikki's point. Andrews is obviously solid, and McBride is getting the competition at Marvin Harrison Jr. So of that top tier, Kincaid might have safest floor and highest ceiling, makes him a massive value pick as the 4th one of the bunch there.
I think leagues are going to get 1 on Kincaid, to be honest, because if you look at it, all of those dudes I just said went ahead of him. You know, in that 5 round, when you look at the draft bubble, or the draft pocket, whatever you say, the draft window, 5.4 went McBride, 5.6 went Andrews, and then Kincaid went right after that. Then who goes after him in later rounds? You got guys like Pitts, shaky, Hawkinson, hurt, Ingram, I don't know. You know what I mean? Kelsey, old. So it's kind of like, if I'm buying a car, I want to make sure that the engine runs and it's humming and the tires a little bit. Kincaid, and he's the highest seed at all those, ironically. So that's probably my favorite pick in here. Do you notice there's a dip when we get to 5'11"? A lot of people don't like Metcalf. I'm okay with him. He's a specimen. But from Metcalf to Addison, holy cow, was that a big drop-off. So hopefully you got your wide receivers in here like Nicky did. He got some London. He got some Smith. Because you're going to be kind of assed out, you know?
Yep, there's definitely a tier drop there. Just in general, for offense-only startup drafts, we've seen that tier drop at the end of round 4 when there's not rookie picks involved. However, when there's IDP and the rookie picks involved, that tear drop definitely comes around at the end of round 5. So just keep in mind, at least in my opinion, that tear drop comes there. So keep in mind that if you're in a startup draft.
And you could also see me here like going with 4 wide receivers as my first 5 picks, because the wide receiver value is like, it's a crazy game. Like you got some safe floor guys, you got some guys that tend to hold the value like Garrett Wilson just because of the pure talent. And the value is stable. Like you always have the chance to flip them if you really want to, and they're not producing as well. And then you got guys like Jordan Addison, like as you said, when the teardrop off happens, like you're not so sure whether they can produce or not. It's kind of hard to flip them over for draft capital or other players sometimes. And I just like to stack up on wide receivers early and work the board down there, because like they're safe. They're not an outlier. The value is stable. You can always flip them. And that's why I also took Micah Parsons here at the 5'10".
So that's what I was going to go with next. But it's smart. It's a 1-point PPR. You got a huge advantage if you have an elite wide receiver. Your tight end premium was 0.25. I don't really start flipping out. I don't geek out about tight end premium unless it's 0.75 or some kind of whatever. 0.25 is kind of lukewarm to me. I'm okay with that. But yeah, get these wide receivers in here, gobble them up. There's a couple here that I think are on the cusp of like really doing something. Brandon Ayuk, before all this trade stuff, I thought was a good pick. But then right here on the corner, 5.1, Zay Flowers. If you look what the Ravens have done, they cleared out that whole entire depth chart. There's nobody there. It's and Bateman on the other side. So if you want a cheap receiver, audience, if you want a cheap receiver, go ahead and see Bateman for 1 year, see what he can do. He's on a prove it. But yeah, Flowers looks like he's in a situation to succeed. I was going to ask you guys, IDP here in the 5th. Do you feel good about it? What says you, Aiden? What says you, Nikki? What do you think?
Yep. I think it's a great value there. Micah Parsons at the 5'10". I was honestly starting to look at IDP at the end of round 4, looking at Parsons, looking at Crosby, kind of foreshadowing ahead of these next coming rounds. I was kind of waiting to try to get that, wait for somebody to start the IDP run. And once Nikki started, we'll start to see a lot of more players start coming off the board in terms of IDP here, starting around 6. But yeah, that's kind of what I was waiting on. I think the 5'10", Micah Parsons, especially in this scoring, is balanced. I think is a very good value.
Usually I do that too. I usually can wait IDP, but then again, I do have a long list of IDP players I can go off of. But like if it's like an 11 on 11, I will gobble up my offense first, and I'll just keep taking the wide receivers like Nikki did. Boom, 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 boom. I'll hold my breath at running back because I'm sure with injuries I'll get something. But I'm going to take receiver. I'm going to say when we start getting to the Godwin types, you know what I mean? What's the tiers drop? What is that? And you did it right when we get to these Addisons and who's coming up next? George Pickenses, I'll start taking IDP players in there. The only time I really come up super hard is if I'm playing on like a 7 on 11 or something like that, or like 60-14, 32, but yeah, that's good value. That's good value for any starting player right there. And, assuming you're going to play Parsons at your DL, he's your top premier player. Put him at linebacker, he's still top 30 play, but yeah, put him right there as a DL, snap him in, you forget about you're good. Anything else in this round here? I think we covered it.
Yep, I think we're good on those 2 rounds.
The main focal point for going Parsons here was also because like the league is balanced. It's kind of balanced in scoring, and Parsons does it all. Like he has the tackles, he racks up consistently 60 to 80 tackles per season, as well as like 14 sacks. And I do think we haven't seen his full potential yet. So you have both types of scoring for him, making him so stable, having a so stable floor, and the upside is huge. Like get him like a 20 sack season. It's atrocious.
So in the where are we at here? So after Addison, we go to 6.1. We had Rashad White. 6.2 Devontae Adams. 6.3 we had Pitts. 6.4 Diggs. 6.5 Max Crosby. 6.6 Pickens, 6.7 Roquan Smith, 6.8 Aiden Hutchinson, 6.9 Tank Dell, 6.10 Nick Bosa, 6.11 Cook, 6.12 Debo Samuel, 7.1 Rice, 7.2 TJ Watt, 7.3 TJ McLaurin, 7.4 Kirk Cousins, 7.5 Jaden Reed, 7.6 Mike Evans, 7.7 Mixon, 7.8 Walker, 7.9 Pacheco, 7.10 Jackson Smith, 7.11 TJ Hawkinson, 7.12 what was his name? Jameson Williams? No,
Javonte Williams.
Javonte. I was saying James. I had Jameson on my brain. I knew. Hey, I get a lot of it in the chat. I get a lot in the chat, like, oh, you misspelled the name. Not really a lot of logic or analytics. We're spell the name quick. My reasoning is I'll probably misspell the name by the time I remember it. They'll be out of the league. Let's do one more while we're here. 8.1 Watson, 8.2 Swift, 8.3 Will Levis, 8.4 and 5 are rookies, 8.6 Myles Garrett, 8.7 Matthew Stafford, 8.8 Bolton, 8.9 Henry, 8.10 Olakun, 8.11 Kirk, 8.12 Ramondre Stevenson. We got a lot to cover in there, a lot of different teardrops, what have you. But those 3 rounds, some of your favorite players, what do you see? What do you like?
Definitely. We definitely see a lot more IDPs coming off the board in these top 3, in this next 3 rounds. The one that actually hurt me the most is I was really looking for Crosby at that 6.6 spot, and then he went to 6.5. I was very, very sad about that. But I was able to circle back around. You'll see I actually had like 6 picks in these rounds. This is the rounds that I started to beef up on. Taking Pickens there. Rashid Rice, this was before the suspension or potential suspension rumors and all those events surrounding him so that is definitely a little bit of a reach now at this point in time. James Cook, we talked about Dalton Kincaid getting a lot of targets. James Cook, I think, at least in terms of my picks, I did quite enjoy it here at the 6-11 spot because after that Diggs trade, I do think that reaffirms their Buffalo's want to run the football as well as vacating targets for even James Cook to catch out of the backfield. So that was a spot I liked.
Yeah. I have to say, like, James Cook is a really, really nice pick there. Shout out to Derek Brown from Fantasy Pros, D-Bro. Big James Cook type of guy, same as me. I was buying James Cook all in this offseason. It was my most favorite pick there too, as well as Kenneth Walker in the 7th round. Like, come on. It's still Kenneth Walker, a guy you could see as a league winner. He does not have
him. I don't understand that.
Yeah. Like you could see me having the 7.9 traded away. I've traded away in a deal I made a little bit further, but I was so hard trying to get this pick back because I was saying, like, dude, Kenneth Walker is still on here. Like, it's huge value. It's a steal. But even the sleeper ADP was like forcing people to take Kenneth Walker there because he was like by far the earliest ADP still on the board for like 2 rounds. And I was so hard trying to get a deal done, but they always rejected it. So that's a very, very nice value here too.
You know, a common draft strategy that I do, let's say I'm playing a 14-team league. They used to call this the talent cliff method. So it's like if I'm in a 14-team league and you only got 1 running back, we'll make the math easy. Then I want to get someone in the top 7. All my positions, I want to have 7 or better. You know what I mean? So if people are punting a running back because they want to go right through, okay, fine, I'll take another one. People forget at the end of the draft, you want all the upper elite players anyway, but people forget at the end of these drafts, you're going to trade and move around anyway, you know? Yeah. So yeah, if Walker falls to you because people are afraid of Charbonnet, then you take him there, you know, obviously. And we know how the season goes, highs and lows, highs and lows, highs and lows. I don't know if you guys, but like, say there's a bye week coming up and your player just had one and mine didn't. What does that mean? I get say it's week 4, I already had my bye. So you get 5 through 17. I get all of those games with your player, and I trade you mine who hasn't had it yet. I have one less player. I'm gonna have more points on my team at the end of the year. Probably not gonna do that in a dynasty, but in a redraft, that's totally doable.
Yep, definitely a lot more valuable because a lot of people overlook that as well. You're getting a full extra game out of it, which in the beginning of the season doesn't really look that impactful, but especially as you get towards the end of the seasons, you have more bye weeks coming, you have a bevy of injuries that are cycling through, so that extra game can be really helpful.
A player that got drafted in these 3 rounds that I'm higher on than the ADP is Aiden Hutchinson, believe it or not. I mean, not only is he a young player, but he was second in the NFL last year with pressures, and it was 101 pressures. I did the math on this. There's only like 5 players like in the whole entire NFL in the last decade had 100 pressures, Micah Parsons being another one. So Aiden Hutchinson, I think, is on the cusp of a jump. Why I think pressure is so important, Nikki, is because all it takes is, the bounce of the ball, quarterback goes in the way, and that's a sack. So they give him anything. I mean, anything on the other side of the ball. They give him anything. He should be more competent. They just signed Canada's all-time leading sack leader, Matthew Betts. So that's like my 32-team last-round pick. We'll see if he even makes the squad. But I'm not really happy with Davenport. But I'm like, we'll see if somebody over there can help him move out because I'm not really happy with who they got. Davenport, Comiskey, Josh Pascal. I'm not really impressed with any of those guys. They got a McNeil over the middle, but yeah, he ended up with 11-point sacks last year and more room to grow. You see a lot of good DLs going here, right? You've seen Crosby. I agree with that. Hutch at 2, that's spicy. Somebody's thinking what I'm thinking. I don't know if I would take him over Bosa, though. That's the thing. And then, Garrett gets dinged a little bit down here. It's simply because he's a little bit older. I mean, he's been doing this over 10 years now. I didn't even realize that. I'm like, wow. So, but yeah, that's my batting order. Your DLs are flying off the board now. I didn't see any DBs yet. So looks like
you will see that later. I think I was starting the trend with the DBs. That's kind of interesting when we get to that.
Heck yeah. So let's get to it. Okay, so I guess we did the 2 rounds. We can do another 2-3 rounds here. So I noticed the quarterbacks. I'm not really happy with Watson, Levis. Stafford did good, but he's older. So I kind of would like, if I was in this draft, I kind of would like to have a quarterback by now, or I'd probably start panicking a little bit. I'm not going to lie. Your 9.1 was Marquez Brown. 9.2, Deontay Johnson in a new situation. That's interesting with the Panthers. 9.3, Watson. 9.4, Baker Mayfield. 9.5, Warner. 9.6, Hunter. 9.7, Ingram. 9.8, Cooper. 9.9, Burns. 9.10, Thibodeau. Rookie at 9.11. Travis Kelce, 9.12. Followed by in the snake, we got 10.1. Cooper Kupp, excellent value there. 10.2, Will Anderson. 10.3, Allen of the Jaguars. The other Josh Allen, right? 10.4, Justin Fields. 10.5, Calvin Ridley. 10.6, Pollard. 10.7, the rookie kicker. 10.8, Jameson Williams. 10.9, Derek Carr. 10.10, Njoku. 10.11, Ernest Jones. We got some linebackers coming off. Good. 10.12, Godwin. 11.1, Montgomery. 11.2, George Kittle. 11.3, Alvin Kamara. 11.4, Josh Downs. 11.5, Keenan Allen. 11.6, Harris. 11.7, a rookie. 11.8, Patrick Queen. 11.9, Tajay Spears. 11.10, Brian Robinson. 11.11 here, we got Cole Kmet. And then we got 11.12, Ferguson of the Cowboys at tight end. What do you guys see in here? What do you like?
I definitely see, at least for me, there is a massive drop off at wide receiver in these rounds. You're going from starting tier wide receivers that you can start weekly to either very old players that we do have some concerns about, or younger upside shots, like, for example, Jameson Williams and the such. So less of that, and you're exiting that firm tier of wide receiver starter that can also be young, and more in those upside shot receivers. Though Cooper Kupp at the 10.1 is a pretty good value there, at least in my opinion, for him.
Right. I mean, no signs of slowing down there. I mean, shoot, you're noticing a lot of old guys. This is where you can snag some older guys in here too. And I'll tell you another one. Njoku kind of bailed me out last year. I'm not saying he's going to have a great year again, but Njoku kind of bailed me out in leagues. You're still seeing decent enough quality tight end stuff with Kmet, Njoku, whatever, if you're okay with that kind of player. But wide receiver fell off the board really quick, huh?
Yep.
What do you say, Nikki?
So what you can see here is like my strategy has like one risky spot, and that's the QB position. Like you said, I'm not a big fan of drafting running backs early, so I went 0 RB here, taking Tyjae Spears as my RB1 in the 11th round.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, I just had rookie picks, and I was planning with Jaden Daniels as my 1.4 or Drake May at that time, depending on who will fall into the draft, because I was really sure that Neighbors and Harrison would be 1.2 and 3, as it also went. But I like Baker Mayfield's value here. I'm a big Baker guy because I think the value is too good. Like he has shown that he's good. He has signed a contract, and like you get it in the 9th round. Like that's quite stellar, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
As well as Justin Fields. I know it's more risky because like with Justin Fields, you don't know what you get. But at the 10th round, the value is okay to me. I don't think that Russell Wilson will start the whole season for the Steelers. And if you're really, really deep into fantasy football, you know the spike weeks of Justin Fields. Get him 2 or 3 or 4 spike weeks, and then you can sell him for way more than the 10th round equivalent is to rookie picks, in my opinion. And there's a chance you get a starting quarterback that scores very, very much points. Not because Justin Fields is a good passer, but because he's a very, very good runner. Yeah. And I took a gamble here. So that was quite interesting here to me. Another move I really liked was like Nightmare or Aiden in this case, sorry, just too many nicknames. Going with Ernest Jones here in the 10th round. I think Ernest Jones is criminally underrated, and getting at the 10-11 turn here is a really, really good
in a dynasty.
Yeah, in a dynasty league especially. Like you get a Sean McVay guy that is really, really talented. That's good value.
The Rams, as far as the defensive scheme goes, they only run like one linebacker schemes a lot of times, and they go back and do like the cover 2. So that is usually historically really good. When you coverage linebacker going back, because he'll scoop a lot of tackles, but they only got one linebacker there, and they will rotate other people in. He's the guy. He's going to get nothing but points. I don't know how rankers do it, but you got to put him in your top 3 to 5, and you're getting him so late. This is usually, like I said, Nikki, this is usually where I start scooping up players of value, and I get really nervous right now. To Aiden's point earlier, I get really nervous with wide receiver, because look at here. Here's an observation. This guy can be the wide receiver 1 or 3. I don't know this depth chart. I don't trust Watson with the Packers because they got all kinds of players there. I don't trust Downs with the Colts because they got all kinds of players there, plus rookies. You know about Jameis Williams. Ridley, too. Same thing's true with Ridley. Is it going to be him or Hopkins? And then Keenan Allen. There's mouths to feed there. I don't know how that batting order is going to be, and I don't want to guess wrong. So for me, I would, if it was me in this draft, just the way my rationale is, I would probably get my wide receivers earlier, like the Wilson pick you have. Set it and forget it. No one's challenging for that. Old man Mike Williams ain't going to be the wide receiver 1. Rookie's not going to be wide receiver run. You know what I mean? So set it and forget it. Xavier, Gibbs, forget it. But I'm kind of nervous with this with these guys here, because any one of them can be the dog or he can be the bottom guy. I just don't know. I don't want to call it. I don't want to guess wrong.
Another thing that plays a big role here is like dual designations of your defensive line players, because like especially if you're starting 10 defense players and your bench is not allowing so much coverage for your defense or your offense, it is really nice to have the dual designation for D-line and linebacker. And especially if I look to the picks I made and the ones Aiden did, like we all have like D-liners and linebackers and dual designations on the D-line spot, especially with Micah Parsons, Will Anderson. And you can see me scooping up Carl Granderson in the later rounds.
Love Granderson.
As well as Aiden doing it.
A defensive lineman that can tackle, you get it.
It's a value most people underestimate, especially if you have starting leagues with like 20 players and your bench is, I don't know, how deep is the bench? It's 20 players?
Yes, we do have quite sizable bench spaces in this. We got 20 plus 4 for taxi squad in terms of bench space. However, to Nikki's point here, that flexibility in startup drafts, it doesn't look very valuable in terms of dual designation. However, that's something I always say when I'm giving advice to people, especially on Sleeper, is that dual designation allows for a great deal of flexibility, both later in that draft itself, but also during the season when you get hit by injuries, when you get hit by bye weeks. It can truly impact your roster in meaningful ways, which can help kind of break. A lot of these players can be similar tier, but if one player has a dual designation while the other one doesn't, that kind of significantly bumps them ahead, in my opinion.
Fun fact here is like I own Micah Parsons in the spoken of 32 team namesake league, and I don't know why, but he has only a linebacker designation for that league, even though he was starting at the D line for the recent 2 years. So
what app is that in?
That's on Fantrax.
It's on Fantrax.
That's why certain apps, and I don't know if you guys notice at the end of the episode, remind me. You can actually write an application to Sleeper and be like, this guy needs to be on DL. That's how we got Parsons. A lot of us messaged them. They'll change it for you if it's a real life scheme. Fantrax, ESPN are a little more rigid on how they do it. Yeah. But it sucks.
I even contacted the support to ask why this is, because like there are multiple depth charts out there that state him as a D-liner. However, the Dallas Cowboys official depth chart they show on their site lists Micah Parsons as a linebacker. And that's why they said we take our sources from the websites, the teams provide itself, and that's why they said no, he's only a linebacker, even though he's not playing the linebacker role in full time or like less than 50% of the time.
Yep. And so as a result of that, for our IDP trade value chart on our website, we break down the positions based on those official depth charts that Fantrax uses. So you will see that we have linebackers, and then the defensive line and dual designations are put together, and Parsons falls on the linebacker list because of that reason, which is very odd, but that's just how we have it organized on the site.
So another one of my strategies, because again, I think like I can go later on IDP. I think I could. I can get my players later. I can get quality offensive players, right? I like those hybrid guys. I like those DL LBs because if I'm in a pinch, I can run a skeleton crew and I can kind of match them around. So I love to do that. It's kind of like the way I play. And that's why I play majority of my leagues on Sleeper. Granderson was an excellent thought. You guys play Madden. I don't really play as much now. Do you guys play Madden? There's too many buttons. I'm an old man, my fingers, but you know, the Madden, they have the cover ones, the cover twos, the cover fours, the cover sixes. You don't hear people talk about a cover 5, do you? I don't know if you guys know what a cover 5 is, or my audience on Spotify, I'm just literally showing the screen. I'm talking about a cover 5 defense. A cover 5 defense, they don't call it that anymore in the pro. No one really uses it. It's a cover 2 zone principles, but in a man scheme, if that makes sense. So a cover 5 is nothing more than a cover 2 man, if you go to concepts. The reason I bring that up, no team uses it but the Saints. Okay? The Saints run a cover 5. What that does is it kind of screws their linebackers over because they're hovering in coverage. That's why you don't see a lot of Pete Warner stats this year, what have you. But they get a quality slot guy or a safety comes down, and the defensive ends, they run after the running back, the linebacker. They get a lot of tackle points. And that's why you're seeing the rise of Granderson off boards, because of the scheme. The scheme fits. He's right there in that, was it the B gap, whatever? He's right there in the 3 tech, right between the guard and the tackle, He's just sitting in there. Running back runs right into him. He's going to get points. So he's a pinball master here. He's a monster, just getting you points, tackles. If you're trying to do a strategy like Nikki was talking about, and you're looking at defensive linemen being your tackles, and you're in a tackle-savvy league, there's two guys I think of. There's Max Crosby, actually three. Max Crosby, Daniel Hunter, and Granderson. They're going to get you sacks, and they're going to get you tackles. Well, guess what? The other two you got to use an early draft pick on. Granderson, how far did he go here? Holy smokes.
He went at the 20.4, so that is way late. That's after Chris Jones, Tui Peludo, Jalen Carter. He got massive value from that. Because
do you see what I'm saying? So if you got an IDP master in here and he kind of knows what he's doing, he's plugging the holes. We got a little mini Bill Belichick over here. He knows what he's drafting. And I didn't mention Ferguson of the Cowboys over there at the 11-12. I kind of like him. That's a quality pick too. If you're putting tight end.
Definitely.
You know, supremely underrated right now, Jake Ferguson, especially even in quarter tight end premiums. Anything that and quarter tight end premium on top of full PPR, I think Ferguson's a huge value at the 11-12 round, end of round 11's position there.
Right. I kind of perk up for these middle rounds because this is where heroes are born. You know what I mean? I'm going to read the next 4 rounds. You tell me what you like in it, okay? I'm just going to go 4 real quick. I'm going to go 12.1. We got Devin White of the Eagles. 12.2, we got Bobby Okereke. Hopefully I spelled that right. I'm going to hear it in the comments. 12.3, rookie kicker. 4, we got Quay Walker. 12.5, Zaire Franklin. 12.6, another kicker, rookie. 12.7, TJ Edwards. That's a good pick right there. 12.8, Antoine Winfield. 12.9, Warren of the Steelers. We can talk about that one too. 12.10, Aaron Jones. 12.11, Jerry Jeudy. 12.12, Sharp. Going around the 13th round, we got 13.1, Freiermuth. 13.2, Bernard. 13.3, Shakur. 13.4, Jacoby Myers. 13.5, Zamir White. A lot of good names in here. 13.6, Aaron Rodgers. 13.7, Dobbs. 13.8, another rookie. 13.9, Kyle Hamilton. 13.10, Karlaftis. 13.11, Dotson. Jalen Petrie. 13.12. 14.1, Hubbard. 14.2, Quinnen Williams of the Jets. No, that's the linebacker.
Quincy.
I almost messed that one up. Good catch. 14.3, Hendrickson. 14.4, Jesse Bates with the DB run. 14.5, Highsmith. 14.6, Phillips. 14.7, Chase Brown may win this draft. 14.8, Singleton. 14.9, Rashad Gary. 14.10, Jalen Brooks. 14.11, Isaiah Simmons. 14.12, Nick Chubb. Lot of ground in there in them 4 rounds. You can go a lot of ways. A lot of teams were built in those rounds. What do you like? What do you see?
Well, at the top of round 12, we definitely see a mini run on linebackers, which does make sense there at that position. I think there are a lot of different value picks here. We've seen a lot more IDPs come off the board. And yeah.
Well,
go ahead, Nikki.
What shocks me the most is like you have a really, really big run on defense players, especially on linebacker here. And what makes sense the most is like changing up. Like if you have a run on one type of position, you have to break through that pattern and take another position because the value gets too good. And what's happening here is like that Antoine Winfield is like the first to be taken off the board, if I see correctly, which is kind of interesting. Winfield had a very, very good year, but is he the DB1 in the league? I don't think so. Followed by Jaylen Warren, Aaron Jones, and Zach Charbonnet. And I was questioning myself, like you have Zamir White in round, is it 14? Yeah, 13. In round 13, and you have Chase Brown in round 14. Insane values. But guys like Zach Charbonnet that won't do anything to your team. They will not contribute to your team winning the league, as well as like Jalen Warren and Aaron Jones. Stellar picks, they're okay, but like there was so much value down the board, and people weren't taking it. So I was kind of questioning myself, like, do I have a failure or a mistake in my thought process? Because guys like that, Chase Brown, like an RB1 of a team, like heading into the 14th round, that's crazy to me.
Yep, I think definitely kind of towards that point and towards your earlier point, Steve, is these are the rounds where your team is going to either come in 5th overall at the end of the season or 1st overall. This is the rounds that are going to make or break your team. So taking those upside shots, to Nikki's point of like Zamir White and Chase Brown versus a Zach Charbonnet, who is currently like a 1B type running back, especially at value at cost, is significant. And especially looking at those other positions is a very significant value.
We've been together an hour, guys, so it's like we are reading each other's minds. You know where I'm going. You know what I'm going to say next. What jumps out to me is this pink, these defensive backs. I'm not one to take a defensive back early, which if you guys ever heard anyone on my podcast, I'll say it again. They're very volatile. And you know what else? Not only are they volatile, it's all offensive scheme dependent. You know what I mean? Like, are they going to get the target or not, right? Not only that, just the way the category is very volatile. No defensive back who leads the year will repeat the next year. I think Budda Baker was the last one to do that. And that was like, 5 years ago? So we have a risky position, a volatile position, one that just keeps evolving. And you're not going to see it right now, but I pulled a stat the other day. Nikki, are you on Twitter by chance?
Yeah.
If you are, look me. I want to get you on Twitter because I put a lot of my mad thoughts in the middle of the night on Twitter. But listen to this thought about defensive backs. Okay, you ready? I'm just going to say IDP 1, 2, 3 because that's universal. That's sleeper standard scoring. But the average defensive back, once you get the defensive back 17 all the way to 42, the average points per game you're missing is only 2 points. That's it. That's it. So what does that tell you? Get an elite guy or just leave it the hell alone and just punt. I did an article at IDP guys last year. We were doing best balls. The last round of my draft, I counted over a dozen guys that made the team because of preseason, whatever, that ended up being amazing players. And you will probably see it in here. But again, I'm not knocking it. If somebody has a strategy, they want to come up early, do it or wait. But here's what I am going to knock. You ready? Antoine Winfield, I get it. Kyle Hamilton, I get it. Derwin James, I get it too. Jalen Petrie, man, what are we watching? Jalen Petrie, I got to vent this to you, Aiden. Jalen Petrie's rookie year, he was all over the place. Do you know why? Because their defense was horrible. A running joke with safeties, a good safety is because the linebackers from can't do anything. Last year, we seen it. The linebackers started to soak it up a little bit, right? And he didn't have to make all those plays. People are going off of name value here, and don't get me started on Isaiah Simmons. I thought that was your pick, Aiden, but you cleverly traded it out, so I'm not even going to. But yeah, if you're building a team, you want to build a monster, go ahead and build it with the DL, the LBs, and in this kind of scoring, I'd probably take 2 DLs and just saturate all the way down to LBs. You could punt these DBs, but if you like DB early, like what, Nicky, you got Kyle Hamilton and you got Jesse Bates, who was a high scorer. You got 2 top 5s. I totally get it. But there's 2 different ways to play. You're not wrong. But what you're wrong, whoever's taking Petrie, he's going to be mad at me. I know I've seen the drafts. Whoever's taking Sauce Gardner when the other player's getting targeted more, I mean, that's common strategy, you know?
Yeah. Yep, definitely. But I think part of it is I did find Nicky's strategy here interesting is because he had so much depth in his draft strategy earlier on. Like he got so many round 4, 5, 6, 7 picks. He was then able to circle back around. And while people were still trying to fill back in those positions, Nicky was able to capture the top tier of each position there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was basically my thought process.
Because you guys did so. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention what you thought or said about the fact with those DBs. I was aware of that, and because of that, I said, like, I want to have the top DB spots because they make a difference, especially guys like Kyle Hamilton who has had a very, very good season, and he has the draft capital. Like, he won't fall off. He's a talented player, as well as Jesse Bates, like racking up like I think 130 total tackles in this Falcons offense. Like the 3-4 formation that the Falcons are running is predestined for your DB to rack up massive tackle points, and that's what you want to see in your DB, like having stellar points. Also having the interception, like Jesse Bates is also a very, very good ball hawk. Like, but also having the tackles, you get a real advantage here.
The reason I bring too is you don't want to get caught up in runs because people see stuff and they get the stars and glitters in their eyes. So the guy in front of you takes Derwin James, Winfield, Kyle Hamilton, Jesse Bates is in there. I don't want somebody to think that they have to take a Petrie there, because you don't. You can totally wait until the end and see. Hey, guys, I don't want to keep you very long, but I did want to go. You guys went super deep thing. You went all the way to 44 rounds. We are still pumping out you. What were some of your favorite picks? If you got 3 of your favorite picks, what are some of your favorite picks in these upcoming that you liked?
We touched on Granderson from Nikki earlier. However, I do think that there's some pretty solid, especially IDP values here. Round 21, we have Ivan Pasco, especially in a league that does value tackles.
Nice.
Definitely.
I'm looking all the way down at Leonard Floyd, who signed a 4-year deal, $64 million deal with the 49ers. Just like Aiden Hutchinson, Nick Bosa desperately needs a guy on the other side. If you look at Leonard Floyd's career, man, he's been doing nothing but churn out quality sacks. Let's see, Nikki. Is there anybody over there that you liked?
Like, you mean the whole draft? So, no special rounds.
Overall it's a good startup.
Yeah, I really like the Kenneth Walker pick. Like, that was the one that were most present into my mind. Like, even after the draft, like I was kind of mad, like, because I tried so hard getting this pick to like get Kenneth Walker. I was typing and sending trade offers out like to 6 different guys, and they all weren't eager to trade with me. And it wasn't like because they wanted to take Kenneth Walker, like they took guys, I would say, like, dude,
because
you're reaching guys out there like Kenneth.
Just work with
because
me, man.
Like,
we both could.
You're reaching on guys, and you're not trading me. Like, I was sending out offers. Like, I'm not typical to send out offers that do not benefit me more than it does normally. Aiden can relate to that. But like, I was sending offers out that like were a total fleece for me, like just value wise. But I didn't care because Kenneth Walker was such a value for me there. I tried to, but everyone kept rejecting my trades because like I even got called out in the process because I made some really interesting trades, and people didn't want to trade with me because they were afraid to get fleeced, even though the offers I sent out were like fleeces to me. Like they were getting me fleeced, but it is what it is.
Don't feel bad. Since I've been doing this podcast, people don't want to trade me either. I'm like, dude, come on, man. You know, that's the funnest part of Dynasty, you know?
Yep.
Aiden, what says you? Anything in this draft you like? Anything you want to talk about the IDP Center? Tell the audience where they can find you as well.
Yep. So you can just find us at theidpcenter.com. You can pull up our website, which you have there, and the pop-up will show up if it's your first time visiting to join our Discord. We got a bunch of stuff going on over there. We're currently working on an IDP trade calculator in addition to our IDP trade value chart that's already up there for dynasties. We have rookie IDP and offense rookie rankings and tiers coming out here soon, amongst a bevy of other content, especially once the season starts approaching. We're going to fire up more dynasty leagues, more redraft leagues. So if you're looking for a startup or just want to dip your toes into IDP, this is the place for you.
That's it. Nikki, are you what's your handle nowadays? Where can the audience find you besides at the IDP Center?
The guys find me in the IDP Center mostly, like on the Discord. Like people DM me all the time, like asking for trade advices, offensively wise and defense wise. I'm not that much into Twitter. Like I'm reading stuff, and so, but I'm not contributing stuff all day. Maybe I should change it. Maybe next time I'm on the show, I have to provide a Twitter handle for you.
I'll tell you, I didn't have a Twitter. I've had a Twitter like 2 years now, and I think I'm up to like 6K or 4K. Like people, once they start knowing what you're into, because people just want to learn. That's why we're here. We just want to grow. It'll blow up for you. And I'm hoping this site blows up for you, and I'm hoping you have many, many more Dynasty leagues, and you invite me on your stuff, and you can come on my shows as well.
Yep, sounds great. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
We're gonna head out this week. You guys have a good night, good day, and greetings in Germany. Take care.
I will do that. Thank you.